In this video, we are going to talk about a very important tactic, an important thing to remember really, and that is the conclusion. Now, this is a much more difficult question than the other questions that we've gone through so far. And in general, this is something you would only see on more difficult questions. And of course, this something is kind of making the conclusion very difficult to pick up on. But that's exactly what they do here. But I would say the takeaway for everyone is always pay attention to the conclusion, especially when you have something as long and as tricky as this question. Let's take a look. And I'm going to read while I sort of summarize what's going on here. So there's human errors going on there. So they said, hey, let's put in these new anti-collision devices into the DC planes. And these anti-collision devices work via a red light. So whenever the red light is on, that means plane is within 3 minutes of a potential collision. And aviation experts have determined that, yeah, 3 minutes is a good amount of time for pilots to, change their flight course so they don't hit the other plane. Now, you may already be thinking, ooh, I think this conclusion or this argument can be weakened by the fact that maybe the light turns on too early, or maybe 3 minutes isn't enough time. That we forget that, hey, the conclusion is down here. Pay attention to it. Therefore, if the red light on the anti-collision device is off, the DC-10 is more than 3 minutes flying distance from any plane. Again, this is very important to pay attention to because it's really easy. Read this quickly, come up with a basic idea of the passage, and rush to the answer choices and then think, oh, I know what's going to fundamentally call into question the analyst's argument. It has something to do with the light not coming on in time. It's a bad anti-collision device. Or maybe the light comes on and they're more than 3 minutes away, 10 minutes away, and it's confusing pilots. Oh, bad anti-collision device. But wait a second. What did the conclusion, not the collision, what did the conclusion actually say? Again, if the red light on the device is off, so if no red light, then the DC-10 is more than 3 minutes flying distance from any plane. Okay? So, now that we know that this is the conclusion that we want to call into question. The idea that the red light's off, there's no way they're that close to any plane. We can take that knowledge, that anticipation of what the correct answer must look like, and we can start eliminating, starting with A. Recently, an air collision in which both planes were less than 90 seconds flying distance from each other was only averted by the prompt actions of air traffic controllers. So it shows that, the device doesn't always work out, especially less than 90 seconds away. You would think that the pilots could do something, but it was the air traffic controllers who really did something. And it sounds like, well, it's showing that this anti-collision isn't working because the pilots aren't doing something in time. That's exactly what the GRE wants you to think. People circle this and think they got the answer, but it is not the answer. Because again, the conclusion is simply this. If the red light is off, then there are no planes close to the DC-10. And answer choice A is not relevant to that conclusion. B, some aviation experts warn that in certain cases 3 minutes may not provide sufficient time for aircraft to maneuver without causing onboard injuries. So if A wasn't tricky enough, B is there. And B is also very difficult. Again, if you're watching this video, this is a difficult question. So don't think, oh my gosh, these questions are really hard. I thought I was getting it. Now this question comes along. This video is really intended for the upper echelon of test takers or those who feel they're getting there. Again, the takeaway is pay attention to the conclusion. But again, hard question. Why? Because B sounds like it's the answer. It could be an answer. But wait, if the light is off, then there's no way the planes are within 3 minutes. Doesn't relate to the fact that, 3 minutes may not be enough time not to cause injuries. Again, doesn't relate to it. But let's take a look at C. The anti-collision device only signals planes of oncoming planes, not those planes flying in parallel. A lot of you would say, yeah, whatever, so. But wait a second. If there are two planes flying next to each other, well, the anti-collision device is not going to turn on. And if they're flying in parallel, maybe they're less than 3 miles away. So if two planes, my planes, flying in parallel, bear with me, just thinking 3 dimensions here, but those planes are parallel, they're a mile apart. Anti-collision device will not turn on. Therefore, that goes directly against the conclusion that if the red light is off, There is no plane closer than 3 miles. This scenario clearly shows that's wrong. Therefore, that is our answer. Now, let's take a look at these other two. D, when two DC-10s approach each other, the red lights on each aircraft do not necessarily turn on simultaneously. Well, who cares? Maybe there's a DC-10 and not a DC-10. As long as there's one DC-10 involved, that's all we care about. And then E, the DC-10 is not the only aircraft model to have been installed with the anti-collision device. These ones we can get rid of a little bit more easily. They don't relate at all to the conclusion or to the argument. And again, C is the answer. If you're not sure, go back and look at that conclusion again and really try to wrap your head around it. But again, this is a very difficult question, so hopefully you get it.